Welcome to a new episode of Crazy Train with me, Jasmine St. Clair. I hope everyone's enjoying the ride so far and the guests that I've been bringing on. Before I get to my next one, because actually when I interviewed her, she was feeling kind of sick. So that brings me to this Silver Wings Colloidal Silver Herbal Tincture Spray. It's amazing, by the way. So I know everyone's like, why do you keep pushing this product? It's amazing. Silver Wings Colloidal Silver Herbal Tincture Spray is amazing. The tincture spray has oil of oregano and echinacea with golden seal and 150 ppm of silver colloidal, which is amazing. It doesn't taste too bad, but I'll say one thing. Everyone else in my acting class, they're all sick. I'm totally fine though, because I've been on this religiously for the past week. Anywho, I know that I bring on a lot of guests that not everybody knows who they are. And then there are a lot of you guys out there who know who these girls are, which tells me a lot about what you do with your recreational time. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on my next guest, who is a natural beauty who just returned back to the adult film business, Miss Sophia Locke. Yeah. But you're asking about the AVN story. So you left the business briefly. And by the way, has anyone ever told you that you look a little bit like Drea de Matteo from The Sopranos?
Oh, I haven't heard her. No, that's a new one. I like that though. I'll take it for sure.
What, who people said that Jessica
Um,
Rabbit?
I love Jessica Rabbit. I get that every so often. I've gotten the Red Queen from Game of Thrones. I think I have like a similar jaw. I've gotten Kate Blanchett, especially in like Lord of the Rings. People say I look like her. Yeah, they're always like nice looking people. So I'm like, okay, thank you very much.
Oh my God. Yeah, it could be worse. Like someone could tell you you look like OJ Simpson. No, actually, like, I don't know, like one of the freaking Kardashians or something. Like that's an insult. When someone says that, it's like saying your face looks like the inside of a used condom, and that I'm not cool with. So you've been absent for 5 years in the adult film business. Did you miss it?
I did. I thought I was pretty happy, but everything was so stagnant in my life during that time. And I had no drive or really motivation. And then all the people I was around, I was in real estate, were pretty religious and pretty, like, they didn't like to talk about really sexual things. So I felt like I had to hold a part of myself back for years. And I didn't realize how much I missed the adult industry until I got back in and realized I was around my people. I could be fully myself. um, yeah, it was interesting. I regret leaving for sure.
Wait a second. You were doing real estate. I'm sure any guy with a pulse that doesn't have a vagina yet, but has a pulse and a penis would be more than happy to talk sexual things with you. Who's going to buy a house from you? Were you renting? Were you selling? And do you want to get back into that?
I have no desire to get back into it. I actually did kind of a full pendulum swing to kind of a more conservative look. I wanted to, after 7 years of being in the industry, I did kind of want people to see me for something else first, maybe my intelligence first, maybe my knowledge of real estate before they were like, oh, you have a pussy and you've done sex work. So I was really quiet about it. No one knew that I did sex work. So I wore like button up, you know. I was really careful about it. I didn't want to project that image. Yeah, I'm sure they would have loved to talk to me about it, but I was pretty careful.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I mean, it's crazy because no matter how you dress, like when I was taking improv classes a few years ago, um, like I always went dressed down as much as possible, just like t-shirts and stuff like that. And eventually some kid came up to me during an intermission, hey Jasmine. I'm like, oh fuck. And I was using my
Right.
real name. I'm like, well, how do you know? He's like, well, I was wrestling before and you wrestled in my town and I was working security. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what you know me from. And later on, they learn shit about you. They're always going to look things up because you don't look normal. You do get that. Not in a bad way, by the way. You look different. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now I don't mind if people look me up. I'm very open that I do adult film. I'm excited to be open about it now that I was so reserved about it before. But I haven't really had anybody recognize me in person. Like Pretty much ever. I think there was one time in Seattle when I lived there, and he said, "You look familiar." And I got to say what I've always wanted to say, which is, "Oh, do you watch a lot of porn?"
And what did he say? Did he? Probably.
He said, "Wait a second, Rob Piper," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I did a Bang Bros with him," and so he recognized me from from that one. But other than that, I don't think people put two and two together, or at least they don't tell me they do. So I just kind of go along and assume nobody knows.
They're not always going to tell you when they do put two and two together. And it's funny when you especially like confront a guy on that, because they start shrinking like as small as their penises do sometimes. It just kind of goes down like, oh my God, she busted me. Yeah, I just busted you. And it's kind of a fun feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
It gives you, it's very empowering in a way. So what did you do in the 5 years out of the business? And then I want to ask you about coming back into it after. So besides real estate, was there anything else you found yourself doing that you maybe didn't do prior to that, aside from not having sex or being a virgin?
On camera, yeah. Yeah, I guess I had plenty of sex with my partner, and we dated women together too. So we did that kind of in our private lives. But I pursued my music stuff, which I had done before. I went to school for vocal performance. And so I had always kind of done jazz singing, and I joined like a couple tribute bands and things like that. So I definitely focused on music. And then I got kind of into making miniatures too. I love little like tiny things, and so especially during COVID, there was nothing else to do, so I started doing those little kits where you can make those. So
Wait, what
yeah,
were you making? Backtrack, miniature, what, like the doll houses? Because I love those.
yeah, yeah. They have these online kits where it's like you like glue it all together and you make these tiny things. It's like when you see a baby or a kitten or a puppy. I feel that way about miniatures, where I'm just like, oh, I just love it so much. So it was really fun to do that too.
So you said you did singing, and are you Scorpio by any chance, or a Libra, or what's your sign?
Aries,
What do you?
Aries.
Okay, so you're creative, obviously. So yes. Okay, so that's interesting. You did singing. Now tell me a little bit about that, because that's pretty, I've never met an adult film star or an ex-adult, except for Midori, because she was an amazing singer as well. So have you done it professionally? Were you putting CDs out or like music online?
Well, I mean, I've gotten paid for it in bands and things like that. I've done lots of gigs and those kind of things. But yeah, it was just from elementary school on, always choirs, and then in college I went to school for that. So it's something where I just love it. I imagine it's probably related to how much I love performing in adult stuff too. Is that you have that performance, you want to be on stage, you want to be watched, you want to affect people in some way. For singing, it's emotionally. For sex work, obviously, it's affecting them in a different way. But I really get a thrill out of performing. And then now that I just moved to Vegas from Austin, I had started a group in Austin, but then ended up moving. I'm looking to start something here, maybe do like a big band swing sort of thing or jazz combos. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where I don't really care if I ever make a lot of money at it. It's just a passion of mine that I didn't really share a lot the last time I was in the adult industry. I was really quiet about it because it was so close to my heart. I didn't let people know. But now I'll post my singing on TikTok and things like that, and people have been really receptive. It's been really nice.
That's so important to have something just personal to you, because I've had my whole thing with vintage jewelry and like miniature doll houses.
Oh,
Oh, I love
cool.
miniatures. Like I could just buy them and not have like anything to really do with them except stare at them. Okay, I'll
Just look
dedicate
at
one day. Yeah, it's the same
it.
thing. But then it reminds me of um I went on Instagram and I saw this thing called miniature homes. Have you seen those? Like you could actually, oh, you got to go. It's tiny, brilliant houses. Oh my God. So you could buy one of those things for like 10 grand or 12 grand, 20 grand, and you put it up in actual, like if you own a piece of property, obviously, or land, and then you just construct these homes, because I had this thing with Architectural Digest when I was a kid. I have no idea why. I grew up in a city, but maybe it's like one of those things, you want a home because you're in a city.
Yeah.
Something weird. I don't know. I haven't been with a therapist in like a while. Yeah, I don't really care about the therapists and so forth. So now AVN. Now I got to tell you, back in the 90s, when you were a contract girl, your job was to spend as much of the company's money as possible. Like there were parties, people were dressing up. It was a really wild time. Now, prior to you leaving the business, now you're back. Do you see any differences whatsoever? And how excited are you for AVN now?
I did when I was in the industry before, I did primarily webcam work. And so I did that for 7 years. There was about a year and a half in there where I did like the pro shoots as well. But most of my things were with the camming world. I ran events for the camming industry that were in Vegas and then culminated in kind of an AVN after party that I helped too. So back then it was really fun. I mostly knew the webcam world. I had worked with a couple people on pro shoots, but this time around, now that I've done more of the mainstream shoots, it'll be really fun just knowing a lot of people from that world as well. Just having like had sex with a lot of them, it should be fun to see them. And yeah, just networking wise, I think it'll be really exciting. And I've also, I guess the other thing that I've heard is different is that people are more careful about consent and things on set. I didn't really have any issues back then, but I mostly worked for kink.com and they were fantastic with consent. I never had any issues there. But what I've heard is that now people are almost like overcorrecting with, are you okay? Is everything okay? Please don't say anything bad on Twitter. You know what I mean? Which I'd honestly rather have the overcorrection than to feel like, than to feel like taken advantage of or pushed in any way. Which also might be my age too. People might not be trying to push me because I'm 37 now, and I feel like it's pretty obvious that I won't do anything I don't want to do. So it's just
Yeah.
my personal experience.
Yeah, but no one's gonna mess with you. I mean, you have like your tattoos are gorgeous. For the most part, you don't mess with a woman that's got a bunch of tattoos, is a redhead, is your hair looks red, and
Yeah.
kind of might have a raspy voice. Oil of oregano, by the way, if you gargle, we'll get rid of that. But
Oh, that'll help too.
yeah, I'm totally telling you, it's a different world now with adult, because I think a lot of people go between this line of clumsy flirting versus actually like sexual assault. And some people don't get it. Like back in that era, people grab your ass, it's no big deal, whatever. I just didn't care. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't consider it harassment. Are there any specific male performers that you want to work with now, like Seth Gamble or anyone you wish you worked with that was a male performer before?
Yeah, there are a bunch of them that are super hot. Obviously, I'd love to work with some. Seth Gamble would be great. Oh God, I like start like naming people. Brian Driller is so hot. I mean, there's a bunch of them that I would love to work with, and that I have worked with that are great. It is funny though because I do a lot of stepmom roles, so I work with these 20-year-olds performers, which is totally fine. I'm totally about it. But it is nice when I have somebody my own age.
What, the guys are 20?
Yeah, and
Oh,
the
that's
girls
fine.
too.
No, that's age appropriate. What are you talking about? Like Seth, he's good looking, but he's too old. He's like 35. What do you want with that? I'm joking. You tell me he's too old now.
No, it's funny. I did Kenzie Taylor's podcast, his wife's podcast, and she was just a doll. She's amazing. So I know there are some really, really good people in this industry. I've been really lucky. I just haven't had any horrible experiences. There are those kind of things that are a little like clumsy, flirty, like you say, like this kind of, people are being kind of sexual or kind of, and none of it really crosses a boundary or things that are kind of annoying. But beyond that, I haven't experienced any like sexual assault things or anything. It's just people have been pretty respectful. So, I mean, more so than in my vanilla jobs where, you have a boss who's all touchy with you and you can't say anything. So I don't know. It's awesome being in this industry, I think.
Yeah, I haven't like, it's just funny because I haven't really spoken to people in the business in so many years. And then I started doing the podcast and you reconnect with like Brittany Andrews or, Lisa Ann and all these other girls. And then Mr. Marcus, who's a complete charm. He's a charmer, complete doll. I love him. He's so great. And then you just, kind of like brings you back to that whole time of like when these shows were different and like when you thought you'd seen it all. And now you have this whole wave of like alt erotica, like
Yeah.
Misha Montana, the things they do, girls like Darcy Diamond. Are you going to go that route at all ever, you think, like with the piercings or more tattoos or getting your tongue split?
No, I
Just
probably
wild.
won't go that I had a lot of piercings at one point, and I've taken everything out. I have the one sleeve. I want to stay as marketable as possible, especially for the stepmom things. And I just don't have a desire to get super pierced or super like extra tattooed. I really like this one piece, and I'm happy with it. I started out, and my personal interests are in BDSM, so I'm happy to do the really kinky stuff. I've done some crazy shit with that. So I'll go extreme, but I guess with my look, I want to kind of stay as like natural as possible. But I'm very attracted to it. I'll have sex with people that look like that for sure.
Wow. That's the right attitude. That's a way better attitude than I ever had. It's like, ill, really? Yeah, okay, whatever. What else?
Really?
Yeah, no, my term was, what was it? What else? What else? Okay, yeah, what else?
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen it all in that era till now. And I know that when I left the business, there were a few girls with tattoos. Janine was the first one to get the full sleeve, and then Tara Patrick. So that's what it reminds me of, just the whole one sleeve thing, which is amazing. I think it's great. So are you from Long Beach originally? Is that what I read? Okay,
Yeah,
so
from
I didn't screw up your intro. Thank God. Why did you go to Austin? Like, what was in Austin? I know it's a big music town, by the way, but
I went for a guy. I had broken up with our that relationship ended, the one that I left the business for 5 years. I got back in, and then like a month later, I fell head over heels in love with a gentleman from Austin. He also did adult work part time too, so I figured like this will work out. And then I moved to Austin for him, and then that didn't end up working out, unfortunately. So that's why I moved back to Vegas. But Austin's a great town. The food's great. The music's great. The musicians there, I mean, excuse me, were just fantastic. So, but it just didn't make sense from a work perspective. Like, I'd rather be in Vegas. It's a quick jump to LA. There are so many performers here now, so many companies here now. So I went for a guy, but now I'm very determined to be single and to focus on my career, because it just, no matter what, it complicates things. It just does. And so I'm feeling very grateful to have the second chance at this business that I didn't know if I'd have or not. And I just want to go as far as I can with it.
it's porn. Everyone always has a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance and a fifth chance and a sixth chance. Maybe I don't know about a seventh chance, but I've never like, I left but never came back. I've never known, like, what does that feel like to leave and actually come back? Does it mess with you emotionally? Like, does it make you feel any specific way? Like, hey, I couldn't leave and come back, or I couldn't do, I mean, obviously you could do other things. I just, like, I don't know, what's it like to leave and just come back? What goes through your mind usually?
It was incredible. I was nervous about coming back. I guess not that nervous, because I was still doing real estate. I was doing great in real estate. I didn't need the money. It wasn't about that. I just missed it. I missed the exhibitionism. I missed the community, especially of women too. And so I thought, I'll just throw some nudes up there. I had the same stage name, so I was like, I'll keep the same branding. If anyone remembers me, that'd be great, but I'm not expecting anything from it. Maybe just a little side money. OnlyFans hadn't existed before. So I was like, I'll try out this OnlyFans thing, but I had no expectations. And so to have people remember me, my old cam community guys remembered me, the models remembered me. It was such a wonderful feel. I felt like I was coming back home. It's where I belong. It's what I need to be doing. It was fantastic. So if you ever come back.
No, I mean, because I'll tell you my only experience, and some people listening know about this experience. So around the time when webcams were first coming out in the 90s, Hustler used me as a guinea pig for their first webcam girl. Let me tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I like clocked out like within 5 minutes. I was cursing people off and getting into arguments because I don't want to do things. And some guy asked me to stick something somewhere. I'm like, why don't you go stick it up your ass, bitch? Like, I was doing that. So the guy who was operating the webcam thing, he could tell it wasn't going very positive, I guess. So we just left and we went to have steaks and drinks at the strip club called Fantasy Island. It's no longer here in Los Angeles. So I don't know how you girls have the patience for it. It's a different era. How do you even have the patience for that? And I'm not bashing fans. It's just, guys, come on. Some people, I just don't have the patience for it. Then again, I don't have the patience for like a little kid. For a cat, I do. Like a little kitten, yes, but not like little kids or anything like that.
Yeah, it was for me with camming, it was about running things the way that I wanted to run them. And if you didn't like it, you could get the fuck out. So it was that. It was like it was doing that, but doing it on a site where the traffic was really good and you had really like good, intelligent people coming in. And I got really lucky. It was my free cams had that at the time. They didn't have the traffic where it was coming in just like barking orders at you or there wasn't really a language barrier with a lot of it, which was nice too. So I got lucky that I was able to build a community when webcamming was still relatively new. So anything you did, people kind of hadn't seen before. There weren't games, there weren't raffles, all of that was in its infancy. So being able to do that and commanding your room and saying, like, if you want to be here, this is how it's going to run. And I'm not doing anything I don't want to do. And I carried that into, the pro side too. Like I don't do things I don't want to do. And maybe I could make more money, but it does mean that everyone watching me knows that I'm enjoying myself. And I think that authenticity contributes to my brand. And I like sticking with that. And then I don't do anything I don't want to fucking do. It's great.
I hope you're enjoying the ride on Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. So if you are, do me a huge, huge favor. Woo! Please go ahead. Go on to Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever, but Apple's great. Give me a nice rating and review. Send me a screenshot, and I promise you, I will send you a special goodie bag. So please rate and review Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. And in exchange for that, once I see the DM with the review and your name and address, I will get those gift bags out to you. I'm not going to tell you what's in it.